Hey guys, welcome back to whatever this is. And on today's episode, this is an old episode that me and Julian actually shot back in 2023. As I said, I have recorded a lot of stuff. I just keep either forgetting or I'm really been bad at misplacing stuff. So again, the active improvement for this year is I will do better and be better about making my videos actually finished. So this episode is going to be very minimal on the editing. It's going to be just kind of as it is, a little raw. Hopefully you enjoy it. It's going to be longer form, a bit more of a podcasty vibe. But honestly, if this does well or people really like it, please let me know down below. Maybe we'll just do a podcast like once a month or something. But anyways, guys, take care. Enjoy. So you've been collecting for a long time.
Yeah.
So whatever this is, does this mean whatever this is, we get to be old men?
Yeah, we get to be old men.
Excellent. Let's go.
Let's fucking go!
So anyways, guys, welcome back to whatever this is, and today it's just to talk about collecting in general and what the state of it has become. Especially to us, because I don't know, when did you start collecting?
Like, for me, I'd always been like, hey, can I have like this video game for Christmas or for my birthday?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't classify that as so much as like collecting at that sense.
No, that's an enjoyer.
Yeah. Collecting for me started when I left high school. When I was going into university.
That's what I would say. Not when I left high school, but like petering at the end. Mm-hmm. Because me and a couple of the other band kids would start talking about like old games.
Yeah.
So like that's where I got started, was around there.
Like for me, like conversation for old stuff was always on the table, but the active collecting for me started right around like summer 2010.
Yeah.
Fall 2010 was right around for me.
I was definitely before you then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, for me it was I was a band kid in high school, and we would talk about older games. Like I know one really good friend from that time period. Like she really got into the GameCube just like right as the Wii was coming out and all that. Like, and she was like in love with the thing. And like me and her, I would recommend these GameCube because I was like the only person in high school who had a GameCube. Yeah. So she would just come to me and be like, "Oh, what about this game?" But she would go more for the party games. Because her and her best friend would like have the most hysterical fights if you're at a party. You would watch them just like want
go at it
and murder each other. Then 5 seconds later giggling about something else. It was great. But for me it was when someone pointed out with the Dreamcast you could just burn games and play them.
Yeah.
So at the time when the Dreamcast was relevant, we were just buying everything. We didn't know we could do that. We had done that with like the PlayStation before, but I mean I think everybody did that.
Yeah. Like my cousin, when he like back when I was younger, he got one of those old 4-pin chips.
Yeah.
Soldered all the points together, all the wires, did it himself. And he was like, yeah, here's an entire binder of games that nobody really owns. Like he had, what was it? I think he had a digital copy of like the CD burn copy of like Toomba. I know, right?
Because good games that nobody bought.
Good games that nobody fucking bought. And he's like, oh yeah, no, and I have Resident Evil 2 on...
Everybody bought that one.
Yeah, of course. No, but he had a burn copy. He didn't actually buy it.
No, but everybody bought that game. I've bought it multiple times.
Of course.
And I will continue to do so.
But he had very few physical...
Yeah, he just burned and moved on. Like, they were just a disposable product to him.
Exactly.
So I found that out, and I always distinctly remember just going through this list of games you should try out. And this was like the first time I would say I went out and bought like the retro game. Like I had to buy it off eBay. And it actually came as one unit, and I remember like it was actually cheaper than trying to buy anything new, which is why I started buying Dreamcast at the time. I bought Grandia 2 after playing a burnt copy, got about halfway through it, went, oh my god, this is amazing, realizing it was like missing stuff here and there, because what they would do is they would compress the game, but like they would cut stuff out.
Ooh.
To make it fit the disc.
Like I know that they usually crush the shit out of the
They had to crush it, yeah. But like there was stuff with this game specifically, they had to put it on 2 discs.
Huh.
For the burnt copy, and if you didn't swap it at the right time, like it would still keep going, but like cutscenes would just be like, we had to take it out, why didn't you switch to disc 2? Like you just get that logo on the screen, and then the cutscene would just end. Like you wouldn't get the chance to swap.
I didn't know that.
That was just the style at the time, and then I picked this up, replayed through the game, and saw every cutscene with no errors, and it was all cleaned up and looked 1,000 times better. So to me, this was when the decision was made. I am buying retro. I am buying older stuff that nobody wants.
For me, it was, I was starting up at Ryerson University, now known as Toronto Metropolitan University. The name of names. Sounds like a money laundering
They were
scheme.
both bad names.
Like, yeah, Egerton Ryerson was a right.
Yeah. Different show.
Different show. we can. But while I was there was, because I was right at Yonge and Dundas, so there were a bunch of game shops around, but also there was EB Games. And then it became GameStop and EB Games again, etc., etc. But there was the one right at Yonge and Dundas, and there was one on the path, which is from Union Station to Yonge and Dundas. And I would visit those frequently because because it was 2010, there was no PS4, there was no Xbox One, there was no Wii U.
We were up to PS3 and that was it.
PS3, Wii, and 360, and DS stuff, because the 3DS hadn't even dropped yet.
Nope. DS was still 2 years out of it.
But at that point, PS2 stuff, Xbox stuff, GameCube when you found it, Dreamcast when you found it, PS1, that stuff, they were just $4.
GameCube couldn't get rid of it. They couldn't get rid of it if they
But
tried.
the ones that I went to, I couldn't find GameCube stuff.
That's because nobody bought it.
It's true.
Or they just bought like the little kid. They bought it for a little kid, and you just always find like, I don't know, Finding Nemo. Maybe you find a Mario once in a while. You'd find Sunshine pretty commonly.
Like, and for me, even I didn't find Sunshine. And this is me, like, the ones that I went to was Square One and Meadowvale Town Center were the ones that were near my house. And then doing the other ones that were down in Toronto.
Yeah. But there was that good
was-
place in the tunnels, I remember. I think it was called Game Shack.
Yes, and it is gone.
It's gone. That one's gone. They have their main location still, but that old location's gone.
I remember that one closing down.
I remember when I'd go to Dundas Square, like, I would also hit that place. That's where, like, I don't have that copy anymore, but, like, I bought Psychonauts at one point for $10 there.
And the thing that really, in the game that stands out in my mind, was a game that I had seen trailers for on IGN and coverage on, what was that, Video Game Arcade, the show? It was the Saturday morning one where they were, like, they did playthroughs of games, and there was...
Was that, like, what, on YTV?
I think it was...
YTV Gamers?
It wasn't YTV Gamers, it was the other one where it was, like, they had, like, 6 kids, like, playing a game, and they had to
Video and Arcade Top 10.
Thank you, Video and Arcade Top 10. They had a coverage of another game that I had never been able to find. And it was one day when I was down at Ryerson, I finally found just the disc of it. And it was a game called Dark Watch. It's about a cowboy, half-vampire, who joins a secret society who has to kill other vampires. And I remember being like, this is the coolest thing ever! And I found it, and I was like, $5 for a disc? Heck yeah! Do you want the disc coverage on it? You bet your ass I do. I'll pay the extra $1, $2 for that. And sure enough, I got home, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put this on the shelf. I'll find another time. A few months go by, exams go, and I'm like, you know what? I want to play Dark Watch. Turns out the game was broken. It would not load, and I tried to resurface it, clean it, everything, and I went to them and I'm like, yo, policy, you guys have to honor this. It's not working.
Not working, yeah.
And they're like, cool, we'll get back to you. Sure enough, check the entire system. They're like, there's nowhere in 100 kilometers that has this game. And I'm like, oh. They're like, we're gonna keep you on email. They did. A week later, I get an email. We found it. 1 copy. Yukon.
Is this GameStop?
This is EB
Or
Games.
EB Games, yeah.
And they mailed it down to Toronto. They're like, you come here often? I'm like, yes.
That was the one story I always wanted to call. I wanted to know what it was like in the Yukon. I know it's really dumb, but every time I would do a search...
Because I think they only have like 2 stores up there.
It's one store.
It's one store.
When I was working, it was one store the entire time, and I always wanted to call them. Be like, can you send me something? Why? I don't know.
Because you're like closer to the North Pole than I'll ever be.
Yeah. What's it like?
What's it like?
What are your hours? Like, what is a day for you?
When the sun has its rotational point where 8 p.m. the sun is still out, how is it like for you working?
Yeah, I always wanted to call them for like no discernible reason. I was like, I'm gonna find an item and I'm gonna get it shipped from the Yukon.
But they ended up shipping it, and to their credit, not only did I get the disc, but they sent me a complete copy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, upgrade! And that is the game that stands out in my mind as like, this is where it goes from here.
Yeah. And it's not like it was like when I was collecting like a lot of this stuff here, the GameCube specifically, I was the only person really looking for it, to the point where there's a pawn shop that's still there, different name, Same owner, actually. I could pop into his store. He would, like, shout at me from before I'd even hit the game wall. He'd just be like, no new GameCube stuff. And I'd say, have a good day, and he goes, see you around next week, and I'd leave. Like, that's how often I was visiting, where I knew the owner, because there really wasn't any big game stores at the time. There was, like, one, like, half hour away from my house.
Yeah.
And that was it. You had, like, the one, and it was a guy who bought a microplay from that company, made it an independent store. It's still there today. It's called Games, and that was it for the longest time.
It was. And after that, we started getting like Kijiji and
Kijiji was okay. I could never make it work.
I got lucky with some stuff on Kijiji.
Yeah.
But then afterward, Craigslist, which was always a crapshoot because Craigslist.
Yeah.
And now Facebook Marketplace, eBay was a little bit better, but eBay reselling was always its problem.
eBay in the early days wasn't that bad.
eBay in the early days wasn't bad. eBay later became a problem.
eBay became a problem later because I even go back and I look at, I actually did this recently after someone else tweeted about his Amazon purchases for like Burning Rangers, and it's like, this is like looking in like an entirely different timeline. I'm looking at like what I paid for Snake Eater, or Twin Snakes on the GameCube and other stuff, and I'm like, I paid like to what they're worth now or with the bot peanuts.
Oh, God.
Absolutely nobody wanted it.
And for me, it was
insane.
It was Xbox, original Xbox.
People still don't want it.
People still don't want it, but it started to creep now. It has started to creep.
We'll see. I'm hoping people catch on because like Xbox is always better.
Yep.
Fun story actually. I was working Anime North for the Spoken For games at Anime North. And there was a kid who came up and I was talking about, the best version of copies, and I made a passive state of Def Jam 5 for New York is technically worse on the PS2, a little bit better on the GameCube, but GameCube's missing some things. Xbox, hands down, best version. And he goes, isn't the Xbox weaker? And I looked him dead in the eye and went, no, it's usually the best third-party option is always Xbox, except in the Xbox One generation.
Yeah.
That's where it got weird. But general rule is 360, original, and now even the series. Later when they got the Xbox One X, those were always the best versions, hands down.
And I was gonna say, the only time that you really had that sort of parity between the PS2 or the PS3 and the 360 was that 7th generation. In the beginning, it was one-sided.
It was one-sided. 360.
360 wasn't even a question. You were anything before 2010. You like 9 times out of 10.
Your Queen is the best example ever.
Oh my God, Bayonetta on the PS3 is
at launch. It was awful. It got a little bit better. Like
they finally
playable.
patched it. It's playable, but it's
not. I wouldn't play it now.
No. Like if I ever wanted to have some self-masochism going, I'd be like, yeah, I'll platinum that version of the game just because I want to hurt myself.
Yeah. But normally just play the 360 version.
The Xbox, the 360, the Xbox One X versions of the games that got
updates. The updates, yep.
Yeah, some of them got straight up 4K updates.
One day we'll see that with Switch games.
That'd be nice.
One day.
But now we get to... Oh, actually, that would be an interesting one. What was one of the scores that you remember getting? Like, what was something that you got and you were like, there's no way I can get it for this price? There's no...
Oh, easy. Shining Force for the GBA. $5.
$5.
Valley Village. Nobody cared.
I remember... It was at a Goodwill.
I probably picked up something else that you remember more than I do, because I pissed you off multiple times with stuff that falls in my lap.
Which one was that one?
I don't know. I know there's something where I've sent you stuff and you're like, how the hell did you get it for that price? I'm like, I don't know, I exist.
You and your horseshoe. One of my favorite ones, and I told you about this back when we got the GameCube, when I was starting to get into it. There was a guy online who was like, yo, I'm selling off some stuff. Here are my things. And I saw in his listing that he had a set of GameCube component cables. And I'm like, how much? And he's like, what do you got available for you? And I'm like, I have a copy of Kirby's Dream Collection 20th Anniversary that I got from the Source by Circuit City for $20. And he's like, I'll take that and $100. And I'm like, done. Those cables are still 400 Canadian.
I bought them when they were 200, but that was just timing. That wasn't luck.
That's timing.
I ended up selling them and just buying the Aeon adapter at this point.
Yeah.
It's just easier to keep everything through HDMI.
It really is. And then also the fact that Eon actually has a Wii cable port with it as well. You can hook up analog to it.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, that's a big incentive to get that and sell off the component cables.
Yeah. Okay.
And here's an interesting one. Did you have any goals when you were collecting?
Back then, no.
See, I did.
I didn't. I just I picked up things as they were fun.
I had 2 specific goals when it came to me buying, or actually 3 now that I think about it. 3 specific goals when I was collecting. First goal was try and get the best version of a game, physically.
That came later.
Yeah, that came later.
For me, that came later, but like I
sort of stumbled into that because of me buying Xbox.
Mine would be, and I brought this up once in a while, so you would have missed this time period of time. Before that started to become a thing, like especially when retro, which we're on now, retro gaming YouTube really came up. What generally you would do is you would just say, buy an N64. You would then go through its library, pick out any game you kind of want to play, and you just slowly go through the library, play everything. You kind of collect everything you want, and then you would go back to that store, trade everything back in. And that was it.
Yeah, it was the recycle.
You would just recycle it. You'd be like, cool, I had a ton of fun with that. The N64, I had like my absolute fill of it in like 2010.
Yeah,
absolute fill of it. Like I have a couple things because my girlfriend like loves it to pieces. So there's a couple things like I wanted 2 games, so I picked up this and then a me, and that was it.
Yeah, you have Banjo.
Yeah, but I found that again.
Oh, okay.
Also, I have my signed copy.
Yes.
Up here
from Grant.
From Mr. Grant Kirkhope. Well, bless your heart. But yeah, that was how it was. But then, like, I would say once the YouTubers became what is it? Metal Jesus Rocks. Alpha Omega Sin was really big at the time.
Happy Console Gamer.
Happy Console Gamer. Who else was around at that time? There's a couple who've fallen off.
Yeah, there's a few.
But they've just given up. Like, some of them just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
GameSack.
GameSack.
Man, GameSack won't go away.
Like, even when half of your show quits and you're still going.
Yeah, you're still going. I'm like, what are we doing? Playing in Tate mode?
Man, you are absolutely no questions asked. You're in it for the long haul.
No, he's here for Tate mode. Tate mode? No. Tate mode.
Tate mode.
Green House. You had those guys. But that was really it. But like, and then like as they became more prevalent, that's when it started to shift. That's when like what I was doing shifted. But then at that point, I really only wanted like hyper specific.
Yeah. Like for me, it was like, oh, cool. This copy of Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines for the Xbox is $2. I could give a toonie. I don't need to buy a pack of gum. Like, there was stuff like that. Rarely did I ever buy, and to this day, rarely do I ever buy things for full price. Yeah. Going through my collection recently, I was able to count on like both hands and both feet how many games I've bought full price, sticker price, MSRP.
Yeah.
And that's 20 games in a collection of over 1,000.
Yeah, but you weren't waiting for a patch. No patches.
No.
This game right here, no patch.
No.
Its HD version on the Switch, many patch. Actually, it's not too bad now. It's done. And my cartridge actually has that patch on it. Thank you, Limited Run.
Nice. But like, one of the other goals that I had for collecting was preservation, which I've talked about in other videos. Like for me, wanting to have, like, as much as Shamu for the
Shamu 1 and Shamu 2?
Not Shenmue, Shamu. Shamu, like the whale from SeaWorld, had a video game.
Oh, that's right.
On the Xbox.
It was on the GameCube, too.
The GameCube and the PS2. A game that most people do not care about.
No.
But I look at that and I'm like, $5.
Why not?
I'll get it. And you know what? I can back it up. Because I want to preserve this medium. No. Because this medium is important to me. As are many mediums. Film especially.
Like, I don't mind if like a special edition comes out and they're going to release it. Let's say, I don't know. Resident Evil Village. See, I can't play this in its original form. Whatever reason, something's clicked like within like, I would say 6 years. There's been one exception to that. I cannot play first-person shooters. For whatever reason, Overwatch gets around it. Maybe it's because my computer can do it at 120 frames. I don't know. But I generally don't like first-person shooters. I find it just disorients me, and my body my brain like can't handle what it's seen, and it mismatches and gets mad at itself and gives me a migraine. This is the Gold Edition. This has the third-person mode in it. It's a code in a box. So I have no need for this. The disc is literally just the base game, and then the code for the DLC.
Complete editions and gold editions of games back in the day, like, and this really was more prevalent in like the 6th, 7th generation, and to an extent the 8th generation, where you would get all of the stuff on the disc. Like, you would have all the DLC. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate is one of those examples where everything is on the disc. The patches, the DLC, everything is on the disc. Marvel Ultimate Alliance Gold is one of my favorites because it has...
That one's rare, too.
It's rare.
That, like, didn't get rare.
I hunted for that game.
I know, I can tell you this for a fact, at one point, and this is actually when the 360 was being cycled out of EB Games, that game was $2. I remember seeing it in the store for $2.
And I remember going to an EB Games and being like, oh, I found the case. I finally found the case. They must have the disc. And I go up to the front and I'm like, hey, do you have Marvel vs. Capcom, or not Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel Ultimate Alliance Gold? And they're like, yep. They pull out the disc and they throw it, and I'm like, that's not the right disc. And they're like, no, it has a DLC code. And I'm like, I've done the research, the disc is different. They're like, no, you're wrong. I'm like, cool, you can keep this, I'm leaving, bye.
I would have taken the case.
I should have taken the case.
But for whatever reason, gold SKU at the time was like $2. I don't know why. I remember seeing it in the bargain bin and being like, yo, $2. Cool, and I just put it away because I don't like those games.
Yeah. And that falls into the me wanting to preserve all the DLC, the best version of the game, because the PC version didn't exist until recently.
That's because Disney wanted them monies.
Yeah, of course Disney wanted
Disney doesn't want some money, they want all of it.
Just like every good corpo. But the third, and the one that came way later, was me wanting a complete library of one specific console.
Is it Mega Man?
He's not Mega Man.
Mega Man on the Switch?
It's not just Switch.
It's all on here.
I mean, it is a nice collection. Is that an art book?
No.
Oh, what is that?
It's a script.
Ooh. For me, the console, and I remember distinctly that moment, it was in 2015, and it was winter 2015, where I kind of had this moment where I was looking at my Wii U games, because I had a few of them.
They're right here.
And we've talked about the Wii U. I wanted a complete set of that console.
Oh yeah, that's right, you did.
I did, and I was close.
I called you about that Mario Rio 2016.
Yep.
I held it for a week.
I am so sorry.
I couldn't help it, like, somebody came in and went, I need this game, and like, our rule kind of was like, it's in your hold bin, but if someone comes in and goes, I need game X, and it's in your bin, and we passed one pay cycle, gone.
Yeah. And you know what? It comes with the territory of wanting to collect. I had, of the entire physical Wii U collection, I had maybe 100 games physically, and that's for all regions. But
you basically have everything.
I had not every
You
North
don't have
American.
Hello Kitty Racer.
I do not, and that was one of the ones in 2015 where I was like, fuck me, $500 for a Hello Kitty Cruiser game. $500! And I remember seeing people legitimately buying that.
Because they thought it would be super rare.
And I'm sitting here being like,
it's an investment property.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, if I'm doing the Wii U, this is gonna be the major one, with the exception of Spyro.
Yep.
Because I was the only person in the West who knew about that game. Everybody else is like, Julian, it was a promotional image. There's no physical box. Even Koralik was like, dude, it doesn't exist. And I'm like, bet. Showed him an Amazon listing the next day, and he's like, excuse the fuck out of you. And I'm like, have fun. And I got him on that damn collection.
He found it too.
He did 2 times.
And he didn't buy you one.
He might still have the second one, but it's not so hard now. There's actual eBay listings for the damn thing. People are actually selling it.
Wow.
Ugh. But I remember being like, I want to get a complete Wii U collection. I love this console. Bayonetta 2 was the thing that sold me on that console. The second I saw that trailer, I was like, yep, done. I'm going whole hog, no questions asked. And I was like, I really like this console. It's got a lot of different, unique, interesting games. This one, Hello Kitty Cruiser one, is going to be a bit of a pain, but I will figure it out. There will come a time where I will find this game for a reasonable price. Fate had an interesting twist. It was 2017, I think, or 2018.
It was like 2018 it got ported.
It got ported to the Switch. And it was that moment where I was like, my Wii U collecting is officially dead.
Yep.
There's no... If Hello Kitty Cruisers, a game nobody but the psychotic wanted,
Yep.
got ported to the Switch, there is nothing on the Wii U that cannot be ported.
Yeah, and at this point, they've basically proven it.
They have proven it. Bayonetta got ported.
Pikmin 3. That was like the one where I was like, the only one where I would say like probably definitely never, but I don't think anyone cares enough about Nintendo Land.
Yeah, I can see Nintendo Land. And honestly, I'm okay with stuff staying on the Wii U, but there are some things on there that deserve a second chance. Xenoblade Chronicles we talked about.
Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Xenoblade Chronicles X deserves a second
100%.
chance, especially now that Xenoblade has...
I think they'll... I think it'll pop out now.
I think...
Right at the end, I think it's gonna...
Yeah. I think that would be a nice, like, again, another swan song from the console. But again, the Switch isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
Nintendo will cut the price on the system before they set up another one.
No, they'll release a new one and just leave it at the same price.
You think they will?
Oh, yeah. Nintendo, I've seen it multiple times.
I think Nintendo's petty enough where they will want to beat the PlayStation 2 in terms of
they're there on software sales. Software sales.
Software sales, yes, but the hardware. I will put money on this bet. I think that the second the sales start to slow to the point where they're like, maybe we should, they'll cut the price by like 100, maybe 150, and sales will go skyrocket. I honestly feel Nintendo is petty enough to want to finally bury that hatchet with Sony.
We'll see. But yeah, collecting nowadays just isn't the weird. It's not a cheap. It's not a cheap hobby. That's why we got into it though.
Exactly, and it was fun, and it stopped being
fun somewhere. I want to say just prior to COVID.
I would say right around 2018, 2019.
2018, it stopped being stupid fun.
It was fun because you could go into a Value Village and be like,
you couldn't just heck around and find out. Like that got lost.
Yes.
And there's only one place where I can really find where I heck around and find out, and that's with this little thing called the Evercade, where they get the licenses officially. They emulate them, so it's not proper, but it's emulation. Emulation's fine. They put them on cartridges. Like that's it. They give you a full color manual and explain how to play the games. Super cool little device. I just picked it up recently, but that's basically it now. Like that's where I can heck around and just have fun and play a bunch of games. I probably wouldn't play. I've already discovered like 2 or 3. It's not a lot, but like it's fun for an evening. Oh yeah, I'll pay like $25 Canadian, goof around with it for like 2 or 3 days, and I'm like, it was worth a lark.
Yeah, and you can't do that anymore. No. There are games that in the last few years, and the pandemic, the Panini did have...
It gave everything a massive shot in the arm.
It did.
Just like the shot in the arm most of us took, the entire like collecting market just took a big shot. Look at Pokemon.
Oh my god. Even stupid shit that you'd never expect. No. Like, this in part is because Sony announced that they were closing down the PlayStation Store.
Mm-hmm. That did kicked up Vita.
Kicked up Vita and PS3 games, specific ones.
Folklore?
The Digital Collection Volume 1 that had Cake Princess or Fat Princess.
Yeah.
It had Tokyo Jungle. There's a bunch of games on that disc that didn't have physical releases other than that one. And that disc shot up overnight.
Yeah. And then there's like some games like, if I remember correctly, this game's like $100. Same with Mega Man. And it's just Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2. Like, I mean, you can get it anywhere, which is great, but like, it shot up like crazy.
And like, there are times where you look at a game and you think to yourself, what would I pay for a game? Like, you think of the original Contra for the NES. What would you pay for that? Off the top of your head.
$50. Like back in the day. Like
back in the day, but I mean now. I mean now. If you were to, not going by what you think the market would be, what you would pay, like, okay,
for like a retro, $20.
Right.
That was the whole point. You can go in.
It's like $60 now.
Yeah, you could spend $60, get like 3 really good games.
Yeah.
Or you could spend $20 and have some fun playing some absolute dog garbage.
You could go out and get like a bunch of movie license games for the NES because they were a dime a dozen and nobody gave a shit about them.
Yep, like Power Ranger games for a really long time. Nobody cared.
No, Rambo.
Nope.
The Rambo game on the NES. People play it because it's...
Even Game Gear's gone up. And there's like one Game Gear I pointed out to him, Sonic Blast. That game is like $50 on the Game Gear. That game is terrible. Oh, I know it was the last Sega-made game for the Game Gear, which cool, neat moment. The game is just that. It's just the worst.
And it's like there are things about certain game consoles that it's understandable when a price goes up.
Yep.
Because of a limited print run. Like, for example, the Spyro game for the Wii U. That was only available at a Japanese toy convention.
Yeah.
No shit, that's gonna be a little bit more expensive. But even then, it's like, Yeah, you can get a complete game disc copy, not with the big box, but you can get that for like 90 to 100 Canadian. That's fairly reasonable considering how fucking rare it is.
I got mine for like $5, but that's because they were on clearance.
Yeah, and that's for the other Skylander stuff. And even that copy now is up.
Are you serious?
The Wii U copy, yeah.
Oh.
Not the Super Dark Mega Edition with Dark Danky Kang. Danky Kang. That version, complete version of that one is like $400.
Yeah, and Darkwing Duck on the Nintendo. Because I was just looking at it, and I'm like, if I were to own like a handful of Nintendo, that would be one of them. But it's like $100.
And when there was that magic overlap in collecting where stuff was expensive and people didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Where you would go in and you'd be like, oh wow, Monster Rancher 4 for the PlayStation 2 for $4.
Yeah.
That's a $150 game, mine.
But sometimes,
Like,
it wasn't even that. It was just like, oh, nobody cares about this. Oh, I kind of care about it, and it was like $20 or $30.
Yeah,
like you weren't breaking your wallet.
Like when you found Shenmue 2 at Value Village when we were.
That was like $5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wanted.
Nobody gave a crap.
Or when I found the Shining Force, that was like the one time where I'm like, I knew its monetary value was close to 100 for a Game Boy game, and at the time, that was unheard of for Game Boy Advance. $100. Now that's like almost common.
Yep.
Now I think that game just hit the stratosphere as far as I'm concerned. But like, I bought it when it was like 75, and I got it for $5 because I got lucky.
Yeah.
But like, that was just me because where the EB I worked at was right next to a Value Village. Before my shifts, if I worked and open, I would be there first thing in the morning, pop on in. At one point, they thought I was reselling, then they just realized, no, I'm just really weird. And then they were like pretty chill with me after that. But when they thought I was reselling, they were actually pretty crusty towards
When
me.
I was living up in Barrie, which is a northern part of southern Ontario, during the pandemic, nothing was open.
Yeah.
There was no availability for anything. And I remember that announcement where Value Village was finally able to open up to people.
No.
And I went in there and I was like, cool, let's check and see what's going on here. Oh, wow. They've rearranged some stuff, so I gotta get my layout here. Go to the electronics section, and I find a Master System.
Yep, I remember that post, yep.
A Master System. Sega Master System. Which in North America is not common, and it's the first version, not the big
big
chunky Tonka gray one that came out. That one's a little bit more common. Still not super common, but the original big box with the pause button on the system. That big boy.
Yeah.
With the Hue card slot. I'm looking at this and I'm like, what the? Why does nobody want this? And I pick it up and the guy beside me goes, I already tested it, it doesn't turn on, doesn't light up. And I'm like, look at the back and I'm like, it's just dirty. This probably just needs some TLC.
She's a dirty girl, she needs some cleaning.
She needs some cleaning. Sure enough, she's better now that I did a basic clean on the cartridge slot.
It's impressive what that'll do.
Oh yeah. With old retro consoles, cleaning is usually all it takes. But I'm like, okay, if there's a Master System here with the power supply, checked around, can't find the controllers, it sucks, but I got Genesis controllers, they work. Go over to the game section. Sure enough, there's like 7 games, but I noticed spaces, and I'm like, somebody skimmed. And I'm like,
Wonder Boy was probably in there.
I got Wonder Boy.
The Dragon Strap, I low-key kind of want it.
Like, and I know, and I'm like sitting here thinking to myself, given how much stuff was here, like there was Safari Hunt, there was Wonder Boy.
It was probably a healthy dose of Sega.
There was a healthy collection. That was somebody who, that was either their childhood system,
yep,
or somebody was like, whatever sort of unfortunate means it ended up in a Value Village donation to a parent, whatever.
Yep.
Something happened, but somebody who was in the line ahead of me, because I was there before it opened, went there right away, skimmed and picked out. Which I'm like, that kind of sucks, but there's some fun things that are still left here. There's the Wonder Boy, there's Safari Hunt. I can pick out these. Oh, there's the Ghostbusters game. Okay. And they're like
the good version, yeah.
Yeah, the $14 each. That's fine. I ended up spending $100 on video games at Value Village that day. By no means was that a small amount of money, but for what that all was, during the pandemic, that was a good deal.
That was a good deal.
That was fun. And then I went back to that Value Village later that weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, this is the thing that snapped and killed my love of collecting. This moment killed me. I saw a dude go up to the front cabinet that they never keep video game stuff in. The one time they did was a bunch of GameCube games. He looked over, and as I came up, in a panic, said, I'll take all of them. There was Mario Sunshine. There was, God, I can't remember what the other ones were, but the one that stood out, the one that made me go, you fuck, was Fire Emblem.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh man, are you like a big collector? Like, you know, like what's the whole thing? He's like, no man, this game's $300, and I'm like,
yep. So what ended up happening was when everything reopened, and this also killed it for me. Even though the bug kind of like recollecting when COVID hit kind of hit me as well. Hard to avoid sometimes.
yeah. Well, we were locked in the house for 6 months.
I was happy with my collection, started this channel here. And I just kind of went in and I was just kind of always skimming, taking a look, seeing if he needed something.
Yeah.
And I literally watched this guy go up. He grabbed the entire section of video games, held it up sideways vertically, said, "This is bullshit. It's all sports games," and then hard slammed it back onto the shelf, vertically standing. Shortly after that, I really just didn't go to Value Village as much because I just didn't want to deal with that energy. And, oh, you wanted Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes.
I remember you just happened to mention it to me. And my luck usually is like, hey, I need this. I'm like, give me 2 months.
Yeah.
I'll walk around somewhere and I'll find it. Sure enough, I find it. But what one of these guys actually did was right. This game is too much on the sticker.
You sent me that picture and I'm like, wow, what a child.
Like, that's how nasty it got. And they were fighting with the employees for whatever reason, and like I just picked it up and walked out. I was like, whatever.
From that same Value Village up in Barrie, I remember walking around and being like, hey, let's check around. Let's see if there's anything else.
Yeah.
And I saw this other guy, and his shopping cart had a bunch of PS2 and GameCube stuff, and he was going through it on his phone, checking prices. He had Suikoden, I think it was 3 or 4 for the PS2.
Yep.
And he's just like, oh, sweet, put it back in the cart, and I'm like, this is officially dead for me.
No. You had a lot of people just trying to sell on Facebook Marketplace. Value Village is where they got their supply. I watched one guy just go up, pick up an entire DVD shelf, like the first time I went there, and just threw it in his cart and walked away.
Yep.
Didn't care what was in there, and then like I kind of hung around a little bit to see what would happen, and he just kind of put back half of them, and then was like, cool, that's it. He just grabbed everything, threw it in the bin.
Like, I know that there are some DVDs out there that fetch a high value, like Dogma is the one that comes to my mind immediately.
For reasons, yeah.
For reasons.
No.
The Blu-ray and the DVD are valuable because they have not gotten a reprint, and they probably never will.
Nope. Just due to who owns copyright.
Just because of copyright.
But that's unfortunately what the market's become.
And now we come to that point.
Where is the collection really worth it? I think it is for what I have, but I don't think I'm not actively trying to add anything anymore.
Like, for me,
I even look at my phone app, and I'm like, I don't have anything there anymore, because I'm like, I either A, have what I want, or B, I'm like, I can't justify down payment on a house.
No, and there's some games out there that are, like, I remember for the longest time, my go-to discussion point was Little Samson for the NES. Little Samson's fun. It ain't $1,000 fun. I now have to revise that phrase. It is $2,000 not fun.
It's not a down payment fun.
It is not a mortgage payment fun. It is not rent in downtown Toronto for a month fun. Sorry, it's not. It's a
I hate that you said that.
Right?
Ugh.
For a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom Toronto rental.
Yep.
For $2,000, you can get a copy of Little Samson for the NES. Oh wow, wonderful! And it's like a better version of Mega Man because it's fantasy-based. Woohoo! Who cares?
It's a great game. Like,
It's not $2,000.
I played it twice. That's it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great time.
It doesn't make sense to buy a video game that you could, if you had it, sell it, and basically buy every modern video game console right now. You could buy a PS5 brand new, Xbox Series X brand new, and a Switch OLED brand new, and you wouldn't spend $2,000.
You'd probably be about 17. Yeah, you'd come up short, but
You'd come up a little short after taxes.
You'd still make
get
a profit,
close,
yeah.
but you would literally be able to get the 3 mainstay relevant consoles for a single video game cartridge from a retro system. This is not sustainable, and I've been saying this for a while, and now the bubble has swollen.
We'll see what happens. I don't know.
For me,
At this point, I don't know. I'm just gonna watch.
For me, I'm at that point where, and you've seen my collection.
Yep.
We will show some B-roll of it. I am going through it.
Yeah.
This is the time where I have come to that point in my collecting where I am going to curate.
Yeah, because of you, I'm also gonna curate, because when we go to the store,
Yeah.
I'll come with you. But I've already got stuff set aside. The Dreamcast, as I said in my last video, as much as I absolutely adore I don't feel comfortable holding it anymore, especially if these discs rot, because then nobody got to enjoy them, and they
No.
sat on a shelf. Over time, both of us accidentally became shelf collectors.
Yeah.
And it'll happen naturally.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Happened.
But there's stuff we bought that we just
Scott
never
the
played.
Waz, Adam Koralik, hell, Happy Console Gamer.
Yeah, he's got stuff that sits on the shelf.
There's stuff that sit on your shelf, and it comes with the territory of collecting. But this is the point in time where it's like, I recently was living, as I said, up in Barrie. But before that, I was living in Mississauga.
Yep.
That was an hour drive, and me bringing my entire collection. From the time I was living up in Barrie for the 5 years, that collection grew. And then we had to move from Barrie to Oakville, which is again an hour south. And then within a month, had to repack and move another 40 minutes east to Woodbridge. Moving all of that stuff in such a short amount of time psychologically broke me down.
Yeah.
And I sat there, and I remember being in my car shaking because I was doing this constantly because there was so much stuff. And I was like, oh my god, how much of this is breaking? What's this? Is this here? Oh my god, did something fall out?
Yeah.
Is something...
You naturally lose stuff, especially when you move.
Oh god, and just sat there in my car thinking to myself, I can't do this again.
No.
I have to be willing to let things go. And it's okay to let things go. And that's when we can come to the discussion about preservation and what it means to own a video game.
Yep. Like, one game here that I know I won't let go of is Grandia 2.
Yeah.
As discussed in another video, this was the one that started it. Like, this is the first time I remember going out of my way for an older console when it wasn't relevant.
Like, for me, I will not, and I'm clearing up my amiibos, and I have a lot of amiibos.
Me too. There's some on the top shelf that you can't see.
There, I have almost an entire, like where you have your...
Yours are in boxes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inbox for an entire, where your, like, duct system would be in your basement or your house. An entire long wall of that, full of amiibos. I'm getting rid of most of them. There are some that I will never part with. Like the Bayonetta ones, because I love Bayonetta. But I will never part with my Super Smash Bros. Mario. Not because he's rare, but because my dad bought him for me.
Oh.
And that's one of the things that I still have of him.
Yeah.
There are sentimental things in my collection I will keep. Like Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 for the PS2. That was bought for me by my parents, and it was one of the PS2 games that I still have the original black box for.
No, but that's because you sold it to me, and then I just gave it back to you for
No, that was
Christmas.
Budokai 3.
It's Budokai 3,
That was
my
Budokai
bad.
3. Tenkaichi 3 I still kept.
Tenkaichi. Oh, Tenkaichi. Okay,
Yes.
my bad.
Budokai 3, you
That which
bought
is
it,
funny.
and I appreciate that.
Because that was like 10-year gap.
yeah, I appreciate that. But I love that game
It's
too.
because I found out there was an upgrade.
Yeah.
I found out the red label is actually better.
No shit.
Yeah, it had a bunch of stuff to the greatest hits version.
Huh.
So when I found that, I'm like, oh, there you go.
Thanks, bud.
I bought you an actual gift, but I'm gonna add that in. You take care of yourself.
When we get to that point now, we're owning the original console. Still has all the accessories, all
Yeah.
the fun stuff.
And there are other ways to use those consoles to play those
And
games.
now we get to that point. EverDrives.
EverDrives.
EverDrives have, and I've said this for the longest time, they are not, and this was back in, like, I think it was like 2010, 2012, in that window I was talking with you about it, I think, where I was like, they're not where they need to be, but this is the start. And now, 10 years later,
This is where they need to be.
oh boy,
I have the Sega Genesis one.
this is the time where you look
Play
at it
your-
and you
play Sega
realize
CD.
it doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense to not just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to spend $112 on a Genesis cartridge or an NES cartridge that you can pop a micro SD into, load up every single game, and you can try them all. It doesn't make sense anymore to try and hunt down
It's just too much.
800 physical NES games. Pat the NES Punk, I give him full credit, full props. He has a complete NES collection.
I think he because I listened to his podcast, I think he is gonna let that go.
I think, and honestly, good.
Yep.
It's a good, and it's okay to let things go. And again, curation. I
Yep.
make that argument now. Go through your collection and think about what is it that you really want. Like for me, I have a copy of WrestleMania. I can't remember what it is for the Xbox 360. I found that at, I can't even remember where it was, but it was $1. And I remember picking this up being like, nah, it was fun for the collection. There's
Yeah.
no other port of it. I don't need a WrestleMania game. I have WrestleMania 1998 for the PlayStation 1. Best WrestleMania game.
No problems. But yeah, that's where we're at. They're
That polygonal rock.
Yeah, and that's where we're at with the collecting. Is it's just the money, the sunken cost, I guess.
It just
We're like
there's
so many of these games are just going up and up and
the
up.
cons of collecting have outweighed the pros.
Yeah.
And it comes to that point where it's like, for me, I have 2 Dreamcast games.
Yeah.
I will sell them, and I will get a mode or a GDMU or a version of that for.
Or if you even want retro, like you have this EverDrive here.
Yeah.
The other option for retro that I speak adamantly about, and it's funny how much it's taken over my train of thought, the Xbox Series.
Yeah.
Microsoft has done an excellent job backwards compatibility.
Microsoft really, if there's one console company that absolutely deserves most improved player award, it's Microsoft.
They're still trying to catch up.
They're still trying to catch up, but damn, from where they were to where they are now, holy shit, they're
a lot better now.
They are vastly better, and I still have my reservations.
This is right after the Sony conference, so so what you're saying is there's a chance moment right now for them still. Considering everything, it's just there's a chance.
Yeah. Like for me, I'm still hesitant about that acquisition deal for Activision.
It'll go through.
I don't think it'll stop now.
No, it's going through.
And I'm just sitting here being like, I kind of don't like that a video game company, and it wouldn't have mattered if it was Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft.
Well, only Microsoft has the money for it.
But Microsoft's the only one who has the money for it. But it wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have wanted somebody to have the first third-party console game manufacturer in the world. Activision was literally the first.
But that's it. That's all we know with that.
When it comes to collecting, if you're gonna start, if you haven't already started, think about what is it that you really want out of your collection. What is it that you really, really want? Do you want to own everything of a PlayStation 3's library? Do you want to own a whole GameCube collection?
PS3 is where it gets weird because there are just versions that are just better on the PS4.
Yeah.
Like they made ports to that console natively.
Yeah, like God of War 3 is probably one of my favorite examples. People are like, that's such an unnecessary version of the game. No, the frame rate on PS3 was awful.
That is a long-term goal.
Yeah.
Like what they did there, that's like a long-term.
Yeah.
So like right now, it makes no sense. But down the road, when they sell it for $10, which is what I guarantee their plan was now. That's it. Like that's a good goal. And then for me, for collecting, I switched so much onto the Switch that that's where my collection. I have over 150 games, and I'm curating a chunk of them because there are some I haven't even played because I worked at EB, so I just bought stuff.
And that becomes one of the other really interesting things that have happened. There's a specific section of gaming that we have not touched upon that has absolutely come in and sledgehammered collections, and especially mine upon reflection.
The Switch?
No, the PC.
No, but the Switch is really good.
The Switch is no denying.
For
the
retro
Switch
stuff.
For retro stuff?
Yeah. Switch or Xbox?
In terms of major console releases that are not exclusives, like obviously like Nintendo stuff, you're not really going to see
the only
that
place
on
you can
PC.
get Grundy on the console right now, aside from PC, like PC is fine, but you can't get the Grundy HD on the Xbox or the PS5.
That's what I mean. Like, if you're comfortable with having a digital collection, you'd be genuinely surprised. And I've looked over
what's on the Switch, especially,
which is on the Switch and what is on PC.
Yeah.
Cut through a console collection, no problem.
Yep.
It is like, especially the Wii U, going from wanting a complete Wii U collection to now looking at, holy crap, the pantry got raided.
Basically, and there's still a few more. There's still some here.
There's a few, but at that point, for me, my Wii U collection, one is an upgrade because I only have the disc of Mario Maker.
Yeah.
Zelda Twilight Princess, but that's gonna come to Switch. We're coming closer to the 40th anniversary.
I think that's
Zelda.
gonna happen. Yeah.
That it's not today, but it would be strange for it to stay there. And then the other 5 are like kind of sort of, I don't know if I really. One of them, I want Spyro because I was the one person that's ever Spyro. But for me, it's like, okay, do I need Mario Color Splash?
Yes.
Like, it's on my list.
It has the best writing ever.
But then you have Mario Color Splash, and then Tank Tank Tank, and then there's Sonic at Sochi.
Don't you dare talk badly about Tank Tank Tank.
No, I love Tank Tank Tank.
Tank.
Sonic and Mario at the former Russian territories, and Rio.
Russian territory.
Sochi.
No, I know.
But like, those are the 4 games with Spyro that I'm like, yeah, that's my Wii U collection, and I'm done. I'm over this, and I'm selling off.
Yeah.
At least 70 Wii U games. It's come to the point where it's okay to let things go.
Yeah. And that's the one thing you gotta remember, gotta think about. Like, you gotta be okay with letting it go, or just knowing how you can set yourself up to still say have access to them.
Yeah.
Just before we go, like, I'll say, like, there still isn't a port of like the classic Resident Evil games yet. I don't know if there will be. I would love theirs to be. There's PC versions they could base it off of. But yeah, with stuff like this, we'll put a code in here. It's not actually, the date is not actually on the disc.
And at that point in time, you make that. It's an argument I've made for 8th gen stuff now. How much of a multi-platform game do you really need to have it on for a console?
Yeah.
When most of the time now, the disc is just a CD key.
A chunk of them do have the base date on it, but like for what I bought this for, I thought it would be on the disc. It was not. And that upset me because I will never play the base game of this.
No.
I just can't, and I don't want to. I like the third person and being chased by Lady Dimitrescu around the building. But that's the weird state that gaming collecting's in. But I think it'll be ultimately healthier once all this starts to pass.
I think there will come.
Because I don't think anyone cares how you play it anymore. Just that you play it.
And
especially the Saturn community.
Oh God, yeah.
The Saturn community doesn't care. They just want you to play it.
No, like when your cheapest games are like $100.
Oh, it's cheap. Ooh, that's the deal.
Oh man, the football game for the Saturn, $99.99.
What are you talking about?
Mind if I do?
You're talking about Casper for the Sega Saturn. It's $105.
I'm like, it's
terrible.
It's terrible. Oh man, Hideline, one of the worst games ever made. One of the worst games. Virtual Hideline, one of the worst games ever made. One of the worst games on the Sega Saturn, and it's like a $250 game. Easy. Yeah. No, of course you're not going to spend that money.
That's the absurdity. So a lot of it is cleaning up, picking out certain games that you're like, I want to hold on to this for emotional reasons, or just you have an attachment to the franchise. And then just thinking, well, maybe I can just use this instead. And I think we're kind of at that point where nobody cares that you played it on the original hardware, because you can play all these games, like the Valis series. You can play 1 and 3 from the Genesis. They took the Genesis ports, and this was $25 Canadian. I got this used, so it was like even cheaper.
Oh damn!
Yeah, there's one game store around here that sells them on their website, VGP. Their actual store location, Toronto, had this used for whatever reason. Somebody traded. Great collection. I do like the Valis series. And that's just where we're at. Is just thinking, you know what? It doesn't have to be the original hardware, but there are ways to play it.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to remember and stick to it. But anyways, guys, that's it for this week's very long episode. Yes. I hate you because I'm going to be editing this.
Would you have
so anyways, guys,
would you have me any other way?
God damn it. Editing. Bleh.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, that's it for this week's episode. Take care. Have a good one.